On today's episode, we'll talk about handheld camera work, Justified, Sneakers the movie, the dance of the B camera, nonverbal communication on set, and of course, the remake of Car Wash. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. Make sure to check out our website, theop.io, especially the breakdown where operators talk about everything that goes into the making of a shot, and read the musings for discussions about everything from quick tips to larger concepts behind operating. I may or may not take a couple of breaks during this episode, but I promise you none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, like us, talk about us, and share us with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello, and welcome back to The Op, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. My name is Dave Comides, and I am your host, and we are here yet again, seems like home now, from Panavision Woodland Hills in their theater, which they let us use because it sounds better than the shack outside the back of my house. I'm really excited today to have a great guest, a great camera operator, a B camera operator who's also done some A camera, great handheld operator, great all-around guy, Brian Pitts. Brian has been operating for a long time, like I have. We've run into each other once or twice, and a couple of his credits are First Kill, Super Pumped, SWAT, Blackish, Perception, Justified, CSI New York, and as a second AC, but because I have to mention it, Sneakers, which I think is one of the most underrated movies of all time, and I want to ask you about that. Brian, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
So tell me your story. How'd you get to where you are? How'd you get into the film industry?
I remember, this journey started for me when I was in college. I was playing basketball at Northwestern University. I was a student there, and working in the summer was always a requirement for me because I needed money. And I discovered through another student in the film department that there was such a thing as a PA. I didn't know what that was, but I asked him, and he told me.
What school was this? Where were you?
This is at Northwestern University. I was a film student.
In Chicago?
In Chicago.
Or north of Chicago. Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, it's in Evanston, Illinois.
Evanston, that's right. It's
Yeah.
right. It's like right on the water there, right?
It's beautiful.
It's really
right
cool.
on the
Yeah.
water. It's a fantastic school.
Yeah.
I had a great time there. I was a film major. It's something that has occurred more than once in my life is that I just happened to make the right choice without understanding why. Like I chose film as my major, but I didn't know why. I had no experience with film.
Isn't that all life, though?
I guess there's just some sort of magical thing that happens.
Yeah,
I thought
right.
I was going to go into radio, honestly.
Really?
I was interested in audio and that kind of thing.
You get the voice for it.
I have that, but I was interested in the technical part,
Yeah.
the booth part. I wanted to be the mixer guy,
All right.
something. I wasn't sure, but I was interested in the idea of radio, TV, film as opposed to everything else. I knew I didn't want to be an engineer or a sociologist or anything like that. And at some point, one of my classmates said, "Oh, I'm going home to work at my uncle's production company in New York as a PA this summer. I'm going to make like $100 a day." And it sounded, amazing to me at the time. And so I said, "Well, what's a PA? What do you do? How do you do it?" And long story short, I found out that there was a movie coming to Chicago to shoot that summer, a film called Lucas,
Okay.
20th Century Fox.
I think I remember that movie.
Ray Villalobos was the cameraman.
Ray Villalobos. Excellent. That's
Yeah.
great.
And George Kohut was the camera operator.
Uh-huh.
And Peter Kuttner was the first assistant. And there's a movie with Charlie Sheen and Corey Haim, and I ended up being a PA on that film. I was the first PA that they hired. It was my first job as a PA.
Wow.
I got the job by just calling. I got one of the trade magazines, and I just bugged them until they hired me. And I called so much that I was calling, I guess, apparently before the office was really set up.
I
There
love
was
it.
just the production coordinator who's just there unpacking boxes.
Yeah.
But everybody else was still in LA, but I was calling every day, and I guess it became like this running thing. Like they just plastered something on the wall, said, "For God's sake, hire this guy." Because I called, But anyway, it worked out. And
were you you were an on-set PA?
on set? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was on set PA, and I was with the camera department a lot. I knew that I wanted to be around the camera. I knew that I wanted to be near the camera. I wanted to learn about the camera. Peter and George and Ray knew I was interested, and they welcomed that idea.
That's great. So you're what, 19, 18, 19?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is in between summers, between
Freshman.
basketball seasons as
Okay.
a Big Ten basketball player.
Okay.
You
All
know,
right.
so it's kind of like I went from one world to the other.
Yeah.
you know. And so that's kind of how it started. I didn't know what I was doing about any of it, but I showed up. I did a good job, and I had relationships from that first job. I think that I still have today. You know?
Really?
Honestly, yeah. I
that
mean, I
says
talked to
something.
Peter, I don't know, a year ago maybe.
Yeah. Peter's still active. I mean, he's retired, but he's still active in Chicago in the union. And,
Yeah, I think
he's
so.
around.
Yeah,
No,
you know, he's kicking around. And,
online, I'm involved with him. I've never met him, but I'm involved with him a little bit every once in a while. Let me ask you a question, just going back to this, and it's a long time ago, so if you don't remember, I get it. What do you think made you successful? What do you think? What aspect of your personality, or what did you do, or what
you mean
didn't
successful
you
with that first
do? Yeah, I
opportunity?
mean, yeah, because the thing is, I've had camera PAs who, and you probably have too since then, who some never know when to be quiet, and some are never say anything because they're scared, and then there's some that are right in the pocket who know exactly when to ask and exactly when not to ask, or whatever. But what do you think? You think there's anything about your personality or anything about what you did that made you continue, them want to continue having a relationship with you?
Well, I mean, I was a hard worker, and I think I was probably nice. I generally have a reputation for being sort of easy to get along with.
You do 100%.
Yeah, and I don't know. I was interested in what I was doing, and it turns out that some people see someone nearby who wants to learn something, and they're happy to help. So,
yeah, I think so.
So that movie worked out.
Yeah.
But what happened was the movie left, and then of course, Peter Kuttner and some of the people who live in Chicago, I continued to work with.
Yeah.
And what happened was I ended up becoming sort of the local PA who could load mags.
That's great.
And so this made me very popular with like a half a dozen commercial houses because they could pay me PA rate.
Yep.
And, they didn't, on small commercials, the first didn't always get a second or a loader.
Yep.
Coming into town.
The first they see.
For the pizza commercial, whatever it was we were doing. And so they would say, hey, we, just so happens our loader,
Yeah. So you're saying like the first and or maybe the second would be coming in from somewhere else.
New York or L.A.
You'd be the local guy who.
Yeah, that's how it worked in Chicago. The
Yeah.
DPs were, in the 80s, the DPs were flying in from the coast, doing these big cost plus commercials.
Okay.
And they would bring their first, and then a lot of, I don't know. I think I just got pushed on a lot of people, but it was fine because I was doing a good job.
It was also pre-internet, right? So you couldn't, it wasn't easy to find people. So they probably were just saying to the production house, hey, you have someone you like or whatever,
yes.
Production company.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I was very busy.
That's great.
And, and the thing about that was really wonderful is, one opportunity leads to the next. That opportunity came from relationships and working on the movie. And then during that period of time, I'm still in college, I think, even. I was just about to graduate, I think. And a couple of the guys who had been coming in as first assistants said, hey, if you're ever in California, give me a call. I'll hire you.
There you go.
So, so I said, sure. I did that. I gave him a call. I did go to California.
Yep. Why not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Chicago's a small town, like,
Yeah, I mean, I was always that bird. I was always going to fly off. But, some people stayed in Chicago and had wonderful careers.
Yeah.
And later on, Chicago sometimes was busier than L.A. in some ways, once they got that incentive thing going. But it was great. It was a nice adventure. I went out to L.A. I had $400. a childhood friend had an apartment in Long Beach. I spent a few weeks on his sofa.
Uh-huh.
Then I got a car for, a few $100. I got a commercial and, I don't know. I think it was Bennigan's restaurant chain or something.
Nice.
You
With
know.
people you knew from working with in Chicago?
Yeah, Steve Vernon. He was the first assistant. I was his second.
I remember his name.
This is and he was very busy in those days. He was non-union,
Okay.
and he had a good relationship with a company called Harmony Pictures, Melody Pictures. It was a company out in the valley.
Melody, I
Rob
remember them.
Lieberman was
Yep.
the owner director, and that was a big chapter because working with Steve got me into Harmony. Harmony liked me a lot, and by this time I was just a camera assistant. I wasn't a PA anymore.
Okay.
And I don't think I did 2 or 3 jobs with them before the director was he was his own B camera operator on all these commercials we did: McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Bank of America, and he liked to have a camera all the time with his 150 to 600. And he said, "You're going to be my assistant. You're going to pull focus for me." I had no idea what I was doing, and so that's what happened. I started working on
That's
his
great.
camera for him, and then eventually that turned into, I was the first for the whole job, and the DP showed up, and they just kind of shoved me at him.
Yeah.
But they were happy with it because I did a good job.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool, actually.
And so when did you make the jump to operating?
I made the jump to operating 18 years ago. I did it in a way that was not orthodox, I guess. I mean, I didn't have an opportunity waiting for me.
Yeah.
No one asked me to do it.
Well, it's one of the problems when you become good in a certain position, right? People don't want to lose you, so they don't necessarily, they want to help you, but they don't want to lose someone who's good. And it sounds like you were a good AC who people depended on.
I was a good AC. I had good relationships. And then also the jobs have very little to do with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And we work very closely together, but it's not, the
Yep.
same thing. There's ways to prepare yourself while you're an assistant to become an operator, but one doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
turn into the other.
And although not to jump away from this, but just because I think of it right now, it's now even more so, right? Because it used to be, at least as the assistant, you were sitting next to the camera and listening
Yes.
to the operator talk to the dolly grip and watching them pan and whatever. You were probably you were sucking all that information up, and now, because of necessity, the assistants are at the very least 20 feet away on a monitor, or sometimes in another room, right?
Oh my God!
So
my relationship is not with the first anymore.
It's weird, right? It's with the second, actually, more than the
It's
first.
with the second. It's with the dolly grip.
Yeah.
It's with the ADs. It's
and by no fault of their own. I mean, focus has become such a different game, and it's so much harder on digital, and they just don't have it. They can't do it the way they used to.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
It's weird.
I guess things change. So I used to ride on the dolly as the first assistant, and the operator and I were like a symbiotic unit.
Did you ever pull for digital, or you left
No,
way
I was.
before that, so.
By the time I came in I started operating at the tail end of film. So I was running film through my camera.
Sure. Yeah.
As an operator. So that's like
So the world's changed a lot. Do you remember Norman Parker, camera system?
I worked for Norman Parker.
You worked for Norman. Norman is one of my. He pulled focus for. I shouldn't say he pulled focus for me. I don't think Norman ever pulled focus for anybody. Norman granted me the ability to pull, or the graciousness of pulling focus for me on camera.
I understand.
But
Yes.
he's a very good. I talk to him almost every day. He's a very good friend of mine. But Norman got out literally as digital was coming in, and he was one of the best focus pullers around.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've probably said this on this podcast before. I talk to him about set now and what camera assistants do, and he can't fathom it. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't even understand, because it's such a different game. And
Yes.
at the same time, I don't know how much they could fathom what he used to have to and what you used to have to do, which
Yes.
is going, all right, that guy's at 6 feet, but I know I got 10 feet to 4 feet, so I'll put it at this.
Yes.
That constant thing. It's just it's a video game now, a little more than what it used to be.
Yeah, I
But,
joke with the seconds now. I sort of, when I have to talk to, I don't even know where the first is sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I joke that I have to call like a customer. I need 1-800 ask my first a question.
Yeah, or you have that thing on your phone where you can like click on it and see where they are and zoom into
or
the map.
something. You know, it's just like.
I know
But
what
we
you
work
mean.
it out. I forget how we work it out. But I try to
Yeah.
find them, and then I make sure that I can communicate with them.
But that said, for any firsts who are listening, I totally get why they are where they are and they're doing what they are, because I think their job has just become so much harder, and I honestly don't understand how they do what they do.
I don't
now.
understand it either, and I don't think I could do it.
No, it's a different game. But anyway, sorry, I got all sidetracked there. So you bumped up to operating, and what was the first? Do you remember the first thing you operated on?
Well, operated on. I mean, it was just a day, but it was the call that caused me to become an operator. But I think it was on a remake of the movie Car Wash.
That was a remake of the movie Car Wash. I
They
love it.
remade the movie Car Wash. It was called The Wash.
Okay.
Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and a
Okay.
bunch of actors
Nice.
in that zone. And a friend of mine called me up. He was an operator, a new operator, and he had the gig as the B camera. No, I'm sorry. He was the A operator, but the DP operated. So he was almost like a standby guy.
You remember who the DP was?
It was Keith Smith,
Keith Smith. And who was the operator?
Robin Melhuish.
I remember these names sort of ring a bell. It's been a while, but yeah.
He didn't have a big career.
Yeah.
He was an assistant. He became an operator, and his career was pretty brief, and then he had a career change.
Gotcha. Okay.
But he was a good friend, and but it's an interesting story because I was kind of outgrowing being a first, and it wasn't that I was the best or the busiest or the most successful. It was just, I was just prepping something once, and I realized I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So
just because it's not challenging anymore, because it's becoming
no,
routine?
I was
or-
just things were changing. It was like I was on some commercial and they were asking for this for free and throw in an ad and by the way, while you're there, prep this thing for this free. It was just like
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like it was time to move on. But at the same time, I mentioned it. They say one door closes, another opens.
Yep.
Around that same time, I think it wasn't the same day, but it was very soon after. I got this call. Hey, go cover me on The Wash as an operator. Don't worry, Keith's going to do all the operating, so bring a newspaper.
Oh, you were replacing him, so you were basically going to go in and just be on the clock
He
as an
was sitting
operator
around.
to cover all the bases, but the DP was going to operate.
The DP, he operates.
Okay, I
That's
gotcha.
his thing.
Yep.
He's like
So this was a union gig then.
It was a union gig.
So you had to have an operator.
You had to have an
Yep.
operator. Robin was sitting around. He never got to work.
Yep.
And it was, that happens.
Some
sometimes.
people's dream job and some people's nightmare.
That's right. That's right. And but anyway, something told me I'm not going to bring a newspaper. I'm going to show up. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to be ready to work. And sure enough, we watched Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and all these people work out this big master and rehearse and make decisions about camera positions and possible this and possible that. And Keith looked at me and said, okay, have at it. So it was my first day. I had no idea what I was doing.
That's great.
And, but, the lesson I learned right away was, like I said, I knew it in my bones. Robin said, bring a newspaper, be prepared to sit down. I said, I bet you I'm going to end up working.
By the way, even if you hadn't ended up working, you would have been on set watching what he did and learning, right?
I
so
would
there's no
have.
downside. But,
Yeah.
But so this is a handheld shot or this is a dolly shot?
No,
or?
it was all dolly stuff. And, it was a low budget thing. It
Yeah.
wasn't, they weren't making high art. It
Yeah.
was, the target was big, and keep the people in the box.
Yeah,
and
I hear you. Okay.
it worked out. I didn't know what I was doing, but they didn't seem to notice that.
By the way, those are the more I do these podcasts, I'm sure everybody's like, "Oh, Dave's telling story number 12 now." I started out on these low budget rap music videos for FM Rocks. Remember them?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was again like It was just like, just get it done. Just give us something. And so you couldn't screw up. So you sort of learned while you screwed up, but nobody cared that you screwed up because everybody
Yeah.
was figuring it out. And
Yeah.
those are kind of the great. It's like you said, there's low threshold. There's not as much pressure.
Very
But
low.
how did you feel like, I can do this, or were you
It was a
overwhelmed, or-
blast.
yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like this is what I want to do.
That's also not knowing anything about the movie other than the name and the people in it. I got to assume this wasn't the same as Meryl Streep giving a soliloquy about,
No, this was.
It sounds like it's a lot of fun.
It was probably not much different
Yeah.
than the rap videos.
Yeah. So
it's like rap videos with a lot of dialogue. Or
yeah,
something,
that's great. That's great.
It
And
was
so
good,
everybody
but
was happy with your job that day, obviously.
He was happy. Keith was happy,
Cool.
and everybody seemed happy. I think I'm not sure if I went back or not, but I knew I wanted to operate after that. I didn't know how I was going to do it or who
Yeah.
was going to hire me. When I came to California, I was friends with a lot of operators, with a lot of people, camera people who were much older than me,
Okay.
who had come through the studio system,
Yeah.
and so there was some of your guests you probably had already probably talked about this, but there used to be a time when the DP you would be in his department as an assistant, and he would move you up.
Yeah.
He would decide, okay, well, this year you're going to be my operator on this movie.
Yep.
I think it's a good time to do that.
Yep.
And so you'd be sort of nurtured and moved along, and it was kind of like being knighted or something.
Yeah.
And
It's like you've been chosen.
yeah, and it was
Yeah.
kind of he watched you learn and grow, and it was kind of a family thing. But now, I think you just sort of declare, I am this or I am that, and you go out there and give it your best.
Yeah.
And which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But that's how I moved up. I moved up into a void of work. There was nothing for me.
So how did you get yourself out there? Because obviously Brian Pitts, at that point, it sounds like the people who know you all go, well, Brian's a first AC. So
Yeah.
so
Well, what happened was
what'd you do?
it's just a fluke. The union at that time had a mentorship program.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. It was a list of people who were willing to be mentors. And you go down the list and you pick these people, and they'd contact them, and then they'd put you two together and you'd have coffee, or you'd meet at the set, or sometimes they'd hire you.
Yeah.
And that's really how it worked for me.
That's great. They've actually reinstated that recently, and it's going like gangbusters. It's fantastic.
I think it's one of the best. For me, it was one of the best things
Yeah.
that I've ever experienced with the union.
Who was your mentor?
I had several, but one of them was a guy named Pierre Rouget.
His name sounds familiar.
He was a commercial DP. He was very successful.
Yeah.
And he was one of the ones who just hired me right away.
That's great.
Some people invited me for coffee, and he had a production coordinator call me up and say, are you available for this commercial? It was easy. It was a TV commercial,
Yeah.
and it was great. It was it was an account that shot twice a month, commercial rate, a couple of days
Wow.
each, and you couldn't mess it up.
And he just needed someone to sit on the dolly and ban and
It
tilt
was
a little
two
bit.
cameras. I forget. It was some cell phone company or
Yeah.
something, and it was some the people just stand in front of a big psych and like throw flowers
Yeah.
and read the script, and you get your whatever it was. It was a lot of money,
Yeah,
I mean, I thought it was at the time,
I'm
and
sure.
it was like, I don't know. It was just one more thing that made me feel like I made the right choice, and
Yep.
because I took a big hit on income and so forth.
But I'm
be-
sure that was probably one of those situations where he was thinking, I need someone on the second camera. I'm assuming he was on the first camera.
Yeah.
And he probably thought, well, this is easy. I mean, you can't screw it up too much, and I'll get to know this guy
Yeah.
and see what he's like, right?
Yeah, and sometimes he was on the second camera because it took an afternoon to figure out what they were doing, and then eventually I think I was just on the camera all the time, and
Yeah.
then when it was two, he would hop up. I mean, he was it was a commercial. It was the commercial world, so a lot of times he was just over in his chair on a phone, like prepping the next thing,
Yep.
getting his rental thing going.
I already got
or
this job.
He was
I
in
gotta get
real
that job.
estate.
Yeah.
He wanted somebody to just
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about Pierre Rouget that was great was I had done, I think, when he was an assistant, I worked with him on, I think it might have been one of the first jobs I did when I got to California was a Brenda Russell music video over at A&M Stages, and he was the first assistant. And the production manager had the same last name as me, and I had been sitting in my little rented apartment in Koreatown, going through. They used to have the book, The 411. It's how you.
I had a very dog-eared page, copy of the 411.
Yeah,
and
you look for work, right? In the 411.
I would literally go, okay, I'm going to call 40 people today.
I did that.
And I don't know if you had the same thing, but for me, it was always like there was part of me that was like, don't pick up, let it be an answering machine, so I could just leave the information.
Yes. It was,
But yeah, it was like everybody in the world was in that. That's how you got in touch with people.
yeah, I hated it, but you had
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
And I called this one production company, and the guy on the other end had the same last name as me, Pitts, and his name is Martin Pitts, and he was the producer. And he said he put a poster on the wall that said my name, Brian Pitts. He said, hire this guy, just because he has the same last name.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's
And
great.
I met Pierre because of that. And then later, when I became an operator, Pierre remembered me from the video. And he was like, "Oh yeah, come on." He as far as he was concerned, we were friends. We hadn't seen each other in years.
Right. Yeah.
Which is another great thing I like about this career and so many of the people that we've met over the years.
Oh yeah.
They're you don't see them sometimes for years and years, but it's still kind of like a family. Like, oh yeah, we worked together on so and so. It's like you're cousins now or something.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Which is a wonderful aspect of this whole thing.
It's the best aspect of this industry, I think, is actually the social. I was just talking to Dolly Grip, John Hudacek. I don't know if he was from Chicago. You remember the Hudaceks? They're brothers.
I do. They had a big stages and rentals
there's a lot
and
of
stuff.
bunch of stuff. But John was. I just worked with him on the reboot for Justified. He pushed Dolly for me a little bit when my Dolly Grip had to leave town, and he's great. He's since retired, but we were talking about it, and he was saying, I don't miss getting up at 4 a.m. to go out when it's snowing or that stuff. But he said, what I just miss the camaraderie and hanging out with people and the reindeer games on set and just, catching up and whatever. And he said that's a big and I thought about it. I thought as I was just thinking about this on the way in, that is one of the best parts of this business is just you get to know people in a way that you don't in other even when you don't see them for a couple of years and you get back and it's like putting the needle back on the record where you left off. And the song keeps playing. That's I totally can see that. So you were working with this guy on these things, and then did you just people started to get your name around? Or?
Yeah, that happened, and then also who else? I had a Norm Langley, who was already a friend through a group of people who I was just sort of. They kind of took me in, and we'd have tacos. Malcolm Brown. I don't know if you know him, but a lot of the black camera operators, camera assistants from that time who came up during the 70s, they were all friends. And I kind of stumbled into that group because I lived down the street. And Norm, so I knew Norm from that. And Norm became a mentor, and he was very helpful, very encouraging, gave me specific stuff. Dan Gold.
Yeah, Dan Gold's a great guy.
Was very good. He gave me a lot of specific stuff about
great operator.
Framing tips, not necessarily composition, but like how to hit a certain frame very specifically every time and look like you're just nailing it.
Do you remember what he told you?
Yeah,
because I want to know.
I think it was it's something that probably sounds obvious now, but just finding something within the frame that you can rest the trailing frame line on, and use that as your marker.
Just some sort of visual cue within like on the background or something like that. Yeah.
And then so that you know exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Also, just rehearse, on a big pan or something. Just rehearse something, a quick pan. Just rehearsing the muscle memory of it over and over right before you roll. You're just doing it over and over. You're nailing it, and now they just roll camera, and
then you just let
you just got to do it again.
Yeah. It's funny you said that about something on the back wall because I don't remember what it was, but I was on some low budget feature early on, and I was standing someone up, and I kept cutting their head, or I'd go too far. I was just screwing up because I was, we all did it, and. God, I wish I could remember who the DP was. He was someone I only worked with once, but he came over to me, and it was clear that he knew I couldn't do it. And he said, listen, when he stands up, the top of the frame is going to be at the top of the window in the background. So don't look at him, look at the background, and as soon as he stands, just tilt up to that window and then look back at him, and he'll be right there. And I was like, oh, that's how you do
Yes,
it. And
same.
then I nailed it. Well, I probably didn't nail it, but I got him in there the next time.
It's
And,
the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing, same idea. And Norm Langley told me, I think right from the first meeting, he went straight into this stuff about stand-ups.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
especially
he said,
with some actors.
keep, if it's a snug, shoulders up kind of stand-up or something, he said, keep the crosshairs right on their cheek. So don't worry about keeping the headroom too tight. Just, they'll
Get him in there.
There'll be a second to settle that in.
Yep.
If you're doing feature headroom, because, he's from the days when
Yeah.
TV had a different headroom.
It's right. TV was a whole different world. It's funny because you and I were talking earlier about you did Justified. What season did you do?
Oh, they kind of adopted me as a busy day player for a few seasons,
Okay.
And I think it was seasons 3, 4.
Okay, so that was
5.
like mid '90s probably or something like that, or maybe
guess.
early 2000s or something like that.
I'd have
But
to
so
look it up.
we just did the reboot of Justified, and
Yes.
one of the things that I don't want to say we fought, but we had to really push through, and a lot of the people were obviously a lot of the actors, but a lot of the directors were the same, and a lot of the producers were the same, whatever. And what we had to constantly sort of reinforce at the very beginning, at least, was, and I know John Lindley did this a lot early on. Before we even started, was we're making Justified, but we're not visually making Justified because TV has changed. It was off the air for like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, just it made me think of what you were saying. There used to be TV, and now TV is really kind of like movies. It's cinematic, and
Very.
framing is totally different. But there used to be sort of like, no, TV framing, and also it was 4:3. It wasn't 16:9 or anamorphic. Or
the
something
thing you're
like that.
talking about was even more the case back in what Norman's talking about.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
came up on L.A. Law and all this.
Well,
stuff.
and
and it was really like
There were-
movies was a different thing.
Yeah, there was almost like, I mean, I'm guessing, but there were almost rules back then of how you framed, a wide
I think
shot.
there were
Yeah.
rules, and I think they came down from the studio.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't do it this way, you would hear about it.
So that was interesting because, and obviously nobody fought it, but it was just this constant reminder of like, no, it's a different show that we're making than it used to be. You mentioned something that I want to ask you about. You said I think you said like Norm Langley and Malcolm Brown, and you said and a bunch of other black camera operators and assistants or whatever. Back then, there weren't a lot of people of color who were on set, right? I
Yes,
mean, this
yes.
was what year would you think this was? This is 90s?
Yeah. Let's see, 82, 87. Yeah, this is like 89. I met Malcolm Brown, one of several African American camera people in LA, but it was still, there were few enough, and it was a big enough deal for them to get in and come up through the ranks,
Yeah.
and they went through a lot.
So they sort of paved the way for the
Yeah.
next generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that generation was really, I think some of their positions were even mandated because, I think the government got involved because.
Oh, I didn't know that, really.
Yeah, in the 70s, I think there was, a lot of work was done to open up the film business and
Absolutely.
make it more diverse.
I mean, not only diverse, but just make it not everybody hiring their kids and whatever. Just
all of
open it
that
up.
too, yeah, because
as
there
well.
was,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of nepotism in the sense that, some of the best camera people I've ever seen in my life, are sons of someone
Yeah.
who did it.
Sure.
And so, I mean, while there's nepotism has kind of a terrible ring to it in a way, it's also there's something to be said for sort of the kind of the inheriting of the respect for
And
our craft.
growing up around it and
Yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah.
No,
I mean,
totally
it's
get
really nothing like it. But of course, I mean, just opportunities aren't spread around maybe exactly where they should. But I
Sure.
ended up becoming friends with Malcolm Brown again through Harmony Pictures.
Okay.
This is kind of the spider web of these relationships. I was supposed to be the first assistant on some commercial, but it was huge, this one. And the DP wanted his guy, and they were trying to push me on him. And it's a good thing they didn't succeed because it was a bigger job than I had done.
You weren't
to-
ready for it.
There was a little bit of water work and a
Yeah.
lot of, housings. And, I wasn't ready.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't have shined probably.
Okay.
And so they brought in Malcolm, who was like, he's a ringer from the old days, and he this was his jam. He knew how
Yeah.
to do this, and I think Fred Goodrich was the DP, and so what the compromise they came up with was they would take me on as the second for the job, which was perfect for me. And I think it was Schlitz malt liquor or something. We had a live Brahma Bull or something, 120
great.
frames.
That's the other thing I love about this business is you run into the craziest.
You just
stuff.
never know.
And you just sort of like, yeah, we got a Brahma Bull today, and I mean, it just
Running
becomes
at you.
normal, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
high speed.
This is
Yeah.
normal.
So I got a great friend out of that, Malcolm Brown. We were just thick as thieves instantly.
And he was an operator then.
He was an assistant, but he
assistant.
became an
Became an
operator
operator.
shortly thereafter.
Gotcha. So he was an assistant at that.
Yeah, and that relationship was important to me because it gave me a glimpse into what the world looked like when he was coming up.
Sure.
It was very, very different.
I'll bet.
So he worked all year because he was at Warner Brothers.
So he was a Warner Brothers hire.
He was a
and-
Warner
and
Brothers
He was in the
hire.
studio system.
And that's how it was in those days.
Yeah.
You were at this studio or
Yep.
that studio, or maybe you were loaned out here or there, but
Sure.
you were at CBS, you were at Universal,
Yep.
and you worked all year on Universal shows.
It was a job.
It was
right?
a job,
It was
like
a job.
any job.
Yeah.
There wasn't this sort of, when does this end?
Exactly.
In
I gotta start
April. You got
booking the
anything
next
after
gig.
that?
Yeah.
There's none of that. This is before that. So
And also, as I remember, I mean, I'm asking you about this like you know about it. We were never in it, but it sounds like you know a little more than I do. There was also sort of a hierarchy for the amount of time you'd been in for where you got placed on jobs. So, like the people who had more seniority got placed first, I think, and there were lower
I think
tiers.
so. And there was
stuff.
also a much stricter sort of feature TV division.
Yeah, there definitely was.
So there was feature guys and there was TV guys,
Yep.
and one wasn't better than the other. Well, I mean, features, had a little bit more reverence to it,
Yeah.
but TV was where the money was because you really worked all year.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah.
But back to what I was asking you about was so back then. Well, first of all, when you got in as an assistant and then an operator, was it? Would you say it was rare for you to see other people of color in the camera crew, or was it starting to become more?
Yeah, it wasn't so rare that I hadn't seen it, but it was always remarked upon.
It was okay.
Yeah, and it was usually because someone was trying to take the initiative and help make this happen.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't some organic thing.
And did I asked because I have no frame of reference for that? Do you know?
Yeah.
Does that play mentally into you, wondering whether you got the job because you deserved the job, or whether you were hired?
I don't know. I worked hard enough to be prepared,
Yeah.
and I love this work, and I tried to be the best
Yeah.
camera person I could be every time I showed up. But was I always the best guy? I don't know. And was sometimes, I mean, the way I look at it is, as a black man, I feel that, I mean, I don't carry a lot of resentment about it, but I feel pretty certain that there's plenty of opportunities I've missed from being black.
Uh-huh.
Not necessarily because of racism, but it's just the way it works. And then, so if there's an opportunity I can have because of that, then I was certainly willing to take
scales.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm greedy. I'll take
Yeah.
it. I'm
Yeah.
not that. I wasn't so proud that I felt like, oh my God,
Sure.
But I mean, I think there's opportunities where they wanted to have the crew. I don't know. I think there's times when it was really helpful for the makeup of the crew,
Yeah.
vis-a-vis the actors and so forth. Sometimes, maybe, I've been on some movies, especially when I was a second assistant, where I wondered, maybe it was helpful to have me there because, I'm pretty visible, really tall, black guy.
Tell everybody
and
how
the only
tall-
other black person on the set is Denzel Washington.
Yeah. We're on a podcast, so tell everybody how tall you are.
6'11".
6'11". I'm 6'4", and you know this even better than I do. Like when I run into someone like you and I look up, it's sort of alarming to look up to someone because I'm not
Yeah.
used to that, and you probably even more so because I would imagine you almost never run into someone you're physically looking up to.
Well, yeah, not up, but I mean, I
Yeah.
had people of my size. I mean,
Yeah.
I came from the basketball world
Sure.
not too long ago. So,
Yeah.
I mean, before
Oh,
the
so
movie
there's a little
business,
bit of that there. Yeah.
I was a Big Ten basketball
but
player.
6'11"
so
is still tall for basketball, even.
it's
isn't
still
it?
tall,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but you're in a world.
But
of
so
16,
I only
16.
bring that up because we're on a podcast, and when you say you stand out on a set, I want to put
Yeah.
everybody's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I know it was. I think when Malcolm and those guys were coming up, I think they were trying to open up the film business to more people.
Yeah.
And I think they were the beneficiaries of some initiatives at the government level. They were also great technicians.
Well, that's the thing is these guys were
absolutely the
great.
best.
I mean, they were fantastic.
They were
and we owe
unquestioned.
all of them a huge debt because had they not been, that whole initiative might not have gone as well.
Unquestioned, yeah. And also there was so much. They talked about. I keep mentioning Malcolm, but he would talk to me about how blacks in the film business were treated during the time where he was coming up,
Which would have been the 70s?
late 70s, early 80s.
And
he
was
said
what,
it was terrible. Some of it was really bad.
Really? I
Yeah,
mean, I don't
like-
say really like I can't, but
Well, but you never know because you think
it's hard to
well,
imagine, and I also recognize that absolutely, I'm sure it's terrible.
It's
just
hard to imagine now, but just
It
like
is.
we're talking just 40 years ago,
No.
45 years ago, he would explain to me that the makeup hair people,
Yeah.
they wouldn't help the black actors at all, even if they were principals. They just hand them a tissue and walk away.
Are you serious?
This is how he told the story.
Of course, no, absolutely.
So I'm sure that this is a little bit of an exaggeration. It
And
doesn't
maybe-
apply to every situation.
Yeah, but it's something that he saw somewhere, and
He
I mean,
saw
there's
it
some
so
truth
much
to it.
as a second assistant that he kept a mirror on the back of his slate
Wow.
so he could go.
Last looks from the second AC.
Yeah. So make sure that
I love that also, by the way, that he's holding up the slate to Mark, and they're able to check themselves in the mirror on the back of the slate.
Yeah.
Wow, that's that. I don't know. I guess the word isn't hard to believe. It just makes me sad to know that that's a reality that happens because people. Yeah, that's terrible. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
but he tells that story, but it was in the process of people like him sort of, beginning to populate, and
100%,
and they were
yeah.
they kind of didn't take any crap, and now things are much better. I mean, even me coming in later, I had some experiences that I hope young people never have in terms of just, things that probably aren't worth repeating, but probably don't even happen anymore.
Just not being welcomed, at least.
Oh yeah, or
nothing
being
less, yeah.
outright harassed
Yeah,
and this kind of
exactly,
thing.
yeah.
These little humiliations that are possible.
I'm
when
so
people,
sorry to hear that.
but-
I hope. Well, I think absolutely things have gotten better. Have they gotten 100%? Probably not, and maybe they never will because there are always going to be bad people out there. But the thing that I think has changed tremendously is that I think that now there's a much larger group of people around everybody who are saying, no, that's not going to fly here. Like everybody's
Yes.
saying that's not okay. So
yeah. And there's official channels for
yeah,
taking care of stuff
of course.
now. And,
Yeah. Anyway.
so you don't have to feel quite so alone about the whole
Oy,
thing. But
boy. Well, back
now
to,
it's not quite so remarkable.
No, exactly, and which is great. I mean, actually, I don't know. I like to think that I never really thought. I just thought of people as people. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I look at you and go, oh, you're 6'11".
Yeah.
I don't know what we only worked together once or twice, and it was like a day call. But I remember coming in and going, and I'd heard your name,
Yeah.
and I remember going, oh my god. You're really tall.
Yes, yes.
But let me ask you about that because I will tell you that I hope it's okay saying this. That the word on the street when your name comes up is super nice guy.
Mm.
Usually there's something about you being tall. I think
Yeah,
there
yeah.
probably is about me too, but
Yeah.
not as much. And excellent handheld operator.
Oh, is that right?
That's
Oh,
what
good. I'm glad to hear
I've heard that from a number of people. And I don't remember what we were doing. The other thing I remember was we were, of course, we were on stage, and of course, we were all the way up against the stage wall because there's that joke of you could be shooting in the Grand Canyon, and you'll still be against the back wall of the Grand
Always,
Canyon somehow.
yeah.
And we were doing like 2 or 3 cameras all next to each other on different lenses. I don't
Yes.
remember why. And it was handheld. But I remember you were like cradling it to get it down to a correct height.
Probably, yeah, I
which
do
I'm
that
sure
a
you do a
lot.
lot. But so I wanted to ask you, well, a couple things about handheld. One is just because of your height, how do you deal with that? Because a 6'11" handheld height is not someone's POV, and the average
Yeah.
actor's POV. Do you find that that's a problem? How do you overcome that?
Well, it can be. I mean, every operator, unless they're 5'10", and the actor's also 5'10", there's going to be some sort of negotiation of like that. But also, I find that the first thing that takes priority is where does the camera need to be?
Yeah.
So, for the photograph, for the shot, and then like, how do I get my body there?
Yeah.
And I think everybody has to deal with that on some level. I mean, obviously, someone who's 5'10" probably has fewer challenges in terms of certain things. But, I'd make a generous use of apple boxes and butt dollies, are a big helpful. The Easy Rig is a nice tool now.
You do use the Easy Rig. You like that?
I've used the Easy Rig. I mean, I've never was totally confident with it because it has kind of an underwater feel.
There's a little sway going on there.
Yeah.
The thing that I was always told that the Easy Rig was designed. Well, it's not that it was told. I mean, it was designed for news people who were standing and having to do an interview for a long time, and so it definitely makes sense and works when you're standing still or you're doing slight adjustments. But for the big movements, I always found that it's just I couldn't control it the way that I wanted to. There was too much in it,
Yeah, I find that, I did a couple of shows that were, SWAT was a great deal of it was handheld.
Okay.
And on that show, the camera, at least my camera, I was doing B camera on that show. And my camera was also designated for the Ronin remote head.
Yeah.
Was so compact and so lightweight
Oh, okay.
that handheld was it was a dream.
You could literally just hold it. You work off the monitor and hold it anywhere
wherever you
wanted
could
to.
put your hand, it's like, it's...
Yeah, I will say, I mean, even at 6'4", the fact that you don't have to have your eye on the eyepiece anymore, you've got other ways to do it that are just almost as good. I mean, having your eye on the eyepiece is always the best, I think. But
Yes.
you can get it down at your hip or whatever you need to do.
It was fantastic, yeah.
It's a different world.
And for that show, I mean, the holding the camera low or wide or not so wide fit the style of the show.
Yeah.
So it was it was high intensity, very dynamic photography.
Gotcha.
So that when we were in what they call the Eagle's Nest of the SWAT headquarters, basically the SWAT station, we were on dollies.
Okay.
But when they were out in the field on a mission, everything was handheld, skinny shutter, super messy,
running around.
and so the camera was often quite low. And our producer, God, what was his name? It'll come to me. But he was an ex-cameraman, and he was just always honest about, foreground. Make sure you have, where's your foreground? What are you doing? So we were always shooting through stuff and around stuff. And so carrying the camera at waist level was ideal.
Yeah.
And then for situations where it needed to be handheld, but not at waist level, you just have to take every situation the way it is. I mean, I've certainly been in some situations where, it was easier for the guy who was 5'9" to do the shot, and I got no shame about saying, "Would you like to do this one?" Especially now at this stage of my career, but because I mean, if I have to squat to do the shot going down the hall, I'd just rather. But a lot of times, if the camera starts moving, it seems like the more movement there's gonna be, the more likely it's getting towards Steadicam anyway. Sometimes.
Yeah.
It just depends. I was on a show earlier this year. We were doing a lot of handheld. What was that show? God, it'll come back to me. We were in like a derelict airplane set with a slanted floor, and
That's always fun.
yeah, it was wet,
Yeah.
and
Oh, God.
there was some crouching involved to get the right frame, and I just had to hunker through it. But for the most part, as long as the story gets told in the right way and nobody's waiting on you, you can usually figure it out.
Yeah, and since you are kind of known as doing good handheld, are there any tips you can offer younger operators handheld, or how to do better handheld, or how to set up for it? Anything that you do?
Well, I would say learning how to lock your shoulders and to have some control over how much bounce there is in the camera, I think is important.
What do you mean when you say lock your shoulders?
You can take your elbows and press them into your ribs.
Yep.
I should have said that. Lock your elbows.
Oh, lock your elbows.
So
I
that
see.
you have kind of a triangle between the handle of,
Yep.
You can do that.
Two handles.
Marvin
yeah.
Rush told me once, if you're near anything that you can lean against, take advantage of it.
That's the cheat that we all do.
So,
There's no question.
you know, if the beginning of if it's take 7 and
Yeah.
you're tired and you're on a little bit longer lane, you say just find something to lean against, a wall or
Wedge yourself, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
And,
Or there's also that thing I'll do a lot where if you're standing still for a long time, you get the C stand with an Apple box on, or a platform on it and a thing, so you can put your elbows right on top of it and just. And it's funny because people are like, that's a cheat. And I'm like, no, that's making a good shot right there.
Yeah. If you don't have to move around, it's wonderful to build a Tootsie Roll out of, they call it Tootsie Roll with a furniture pad.
Furniture pad, yep.
You can rest your elbows in that. And again, it mostly depends on whether you have to be mobile or not.
Sure. Yeah.
And then once you're mobile, everything depends upon, how messy is this supposed to be? Is it supposed to be beautiful and slow, or is it supposed to be, emergency, crisis, hectic, messy kind of thing? And so I mean, if I had to give any advice about handheld, I would say just find a way to be as comfortable as you can, and don't be afraid to take a minute or two to make sure that you're as comfortable as you can be. If you feel comfortable and confident that you can make the shot happen the way you're doing it, then it's probably the right way.
That's actually excellent advice. It's all about figuring out how not to fight it, right?
Yeah.
Sean Bobbitt, cinematographer.
I know the name.
He's he's American, but he lives in Britain and he has a British accent. So I don't know if he's an American cinematographer. I guess he's a British cinematographer. I've shot with him a bunch for Steve McQueen. He does really great handheld. And one of the things that you mentioned that he talks about is, that there's a reason that a tripod is a triangle, because it's the most stable, sort of structure there is. And he talks about the triangle of, 1 is your eye on the eyepiece. 2 is your head against the camera, sort of wedged in there, and then 3 are your two hands on the handles.
Yes.
So it just becomes a triangle, and if all of that is extremely tight, then your torso and your head and the camera are all just moving, as one.
Yeah.
And he has this whole there's an area workshop that he does online, which is actually great, all about handheld, and he's got great tips. I remember when the first time I worked with him, he kind of laid that out, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot. I mean, it's what you were just describing and what we all do, but I was like, now I understand why that makes sense. Do you have a specific shoulder pad you like to use, or do you just use a piece of foam? Or
I'm terrible about that. I'm not, I should have everybody, I show up on these sets and people have these beautiful systems that they've purchased and built, and I'm usually just, reaching for whatever is nearby.
It's funny. Some people are so specific, and then some people are like, I just put something under there. And
depends a lot on the camera.
Yeah.
I mean, the cameras are these kind of porcupines, of electronics now, and the part of it that's going to rest comfortably on the shoulder, I never know where it's going to be by the time they get the batteries and the distributed box. And now they have, a lot of times now the camera has this, what do you call the thing? The recorder, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
They've got an external...
external recorder, a drive on the back. And
yeah,
they've become really weird. And
so I never know what, but generally I just kind of hunker down. I just throw it up there and do the best I can. I mean, I have a couple of different pads at home. They're very generic.
So nothing specific. But the thing that I've always found is there's no right one, because everybody's body is different. It's like I happen to have very bony shoulders, so I have one that has a piece of metal in it and some leather and whatever. But it's like everybody's completely different. It's whatever works for you.
I should have done that. I just I went with pain instead. For no specific reason.
Yeah. So you we talked about you doing a lot of B camera, and you mentioned B camera. So I want to ask you some questions about that, because most people who are starting out in this industry are going to start out on D camera or C camera or B camera. They're not going to jump to A camera, and they may never. And the interesting thing that I always find about B camera is, I most of the time I look at it as like, if it's a show with 2 cameras, which now it almost always is, it seems like, there's an A and a B, just because there has to be some sort of, whatever. But you've got hopefully 2 great camera operators. But in a weird way, I've almost found the B camera operator it's sometimes a harder job, because you have to okay, I got to do this complicated shot, but the A camera's already there, and da-da-da. So a bunch of questions. One is so they're rehearsing and you guys are called in for rehearsal. What do you, as a B camera operator, are you usually trying to find shots? Are you trying to just sort of see what the A camera operator's doing? Are you trying to come up with things that you can offer up, or what? How do you? What's your game plan?
It's all the above. I think I'm watching. I'm looking for whether it's A or B. I'm always having during the rehearsal, just trying to, in my mind, seeing what coverage makes sense to me.
Okay, so you're cutting the scene in your mind almost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and even if I'm not right, or even if I'm not totally in sync with what they're with the DP and the director gonna tell me, at least I'm in the same ballpark. I'm not just sitting there waiting, so to be told what to do. So that's important. And then also you get better at it. The more you think about coverage and designing coverage, and so I can always usually find out where to suggest the camera might go. It's usually pretty obvious to everybody about the same time.
Yeah.
There's tons of room for the B camera to be on the inside here. A lot of times I don't like to, for the viewers, the inside means, the space and then over the shoulder,
So the A camera's on a little wider lens and the B camera's a little tighter to the person in the foreground.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And, a lot of times the B camera ends up there, sometimes because that's the right shot, and sometimes because that's the most impactful view of the actor's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes because we need this before we go to lunch, and we're going to be in trouble if we don't try.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of politics at the B camera level about how are we utilizing the B camera, and sometimes they need to demonstrate that they tried.
Gotcha.
So they don't get in trouble, because now we know we're going to have to come back and get this properly after lunch.
Yeah.
But it'll go down. The medicine will go down better if the producer sees we tried.
Yeah.
To jam a B camera in there. And sometimes they don't have to do this, So I watch the rehearsal. I think about where I would shoot it. I think about looking into backlight generally. I watch where the DP and the director are standing, because that tells me what they're thinking.
Yeah.
They're watching it from over there. I'm listening to the discussions that they're having. I look at it from another place if it looks good. And sometimes they'll look at me and come over and see maybe I have something, and then in that moment I'm getting a chance to learn how much input they want from me, how much is welcome. Sometimes they have a specific plan for reasons that I may not know for shooting in a certain direction, and it's not helpful for me to suggest something very different from that. I know from experience working with a lot of A operators is depending upon how many actors are in the scene and what the backgrounds and limitations are. I'm almost always going to have a shot with certain DPs just going 90 degrees from the A camera.
Yeah. So you just know that's the way they're going to go.
Generally, when I was on SWAT,
Yeah.
Tim and I had this wordless dance. Tim Dolan and I had this wordless dance that we would do where, as he started lining up this shot, I know the second cut for me is going to be over here.
Yeah, so you already know where to go.
Yeah, the 50-50 into the backlight with the bitch in background,
Yep.
And then you're walking. It's kind of a fun part of the job, because everybody finding a shot is fun. It makes people happy when you find a shot.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then when you walk over to the right place where the shot should be, you can glance over at the DP and the director, and you can see they're nodding. Like, yes, do that.
Go there.
And sometimes I can start the work right now. Give me some track here.
Yep.
And, but I don't want to get too ahead of the A camera, because You know, you don't want to, sometimes the grips will all run and jump on what I've asked for, and
Yep.
like, that's not great either,
Well, there's the politics of that, right? Like you don't want to
Yes.
step on toes, but you got to be ready, but you don't want to be too ready, and you don't want to make anybody else look bad. And
Yes.
there's all that stuff.
All of that.
I often say that my favorite B camera operators who I work with, and a number of people come to mind, are the people who I'll set up some just great shot, and I'll be all excited, and then I'll look over, and they'll just be a B camera operator will just have found the perfect thing, and I'll look at it and be like, oh God, that's so much better than what I am.
Yeah,
And that's
happens all the
kind of
time.
what you want in a way. And it's funny because I actually love doing B camera for that, because sometimes there's a little bit of pressure off of you, and if you have a DP and a
Yes.
director who will allow you to some freedom, you
Yeah.
can do some really cool stuff.
Program is great that way because it's just enough autonomy sometimes that,
Yeah,
the A camera master kind of presents itself in this sort of undeniable way. It's like, well, you got to have this, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is awesome.
yeah,
But the surprise, the unexpected thing is going to be like, oh, what'd you have over there?
yeah,
And you got the low, because, it's editorially, it's so important to be, you're going to be on that master for 3 or 4 seconds sometimes, depending upon how much movement is. And then
Exactly.
you're going to go to something else. And it's nice to have something surprising and out of the ordinary. And P camera sometimes provides that. That was a good experience on SWAT to be able to, they were so aggressive about finding interesting shots, and everybody was encouraged
that's great.
to find interesting shots.
Those are the best shows where it's just like you're just going.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun that way,
Yeah.
and I really got a lot more confidence in my ability to sort of push the envelope visually. Sometimes it felt a little too much to me.
Yeah,
I mean, when I shoot my own stuff as a DP now, I kind of tend more toward a little bit more classical, kind of restrained thing.
but I think it's important, isn't it, sometimes to have done that stuff that's maybe a little too far, to know where that line is that you like. Like, in other words, I'd rather be figuring it out on someone else's dime than on my own project, because at least that way when I get to my project, I go, oh, I know what I like now,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, and it suit that material, because
Yeah.
that material just really committed to that aesthetic. And not all material will. I mean, the
Well,
same shots might look ridiculous on a intimate drama.
Sure. And you were saying sometimes for your taste it was pushing the line too much, but then when you see the cut, does it work for you, or do you still?
It worked very well.
Yeah. So
There was some episodes of that show where it was kind of like, well, that could have been better, but.
But it
there were
surprised
some-
you when you saw it that it actually.
Yeah,
Oh, I
and
get it.
Definitely,
now.
it depended on who was directing, who was the director for that episode, and I think the directors had a fair bit of leeway in terms of how they cut stuff.
Uh-huh.
I was surprised. Usually, seems to me in episodic streaming or whatever it is these days, a lot of the cuts are sort of dictated, and it seems like the director is given a courtesy pass, but they don't really get the last word.
I think that's probably more the case than we'd like to know, having directed a couple things before
Yeah,
streaming.
so you would know better than I do,
Yeah.
but it seems like,
No, it's like I
some-
handed it in,
they
they're
let
like,
you
"Yeah,
do
that's-
it to
that's great."
humor you a
And
little
no.
bit, but
And then I'd watch it when it came out. I'd be like, "Huh?
right, yeah, exactly.
This is a musical? I didn't know this was a musical." It's a totally different show from what you had. Yeah, it's part of the beast.
Yeah.
What about, we sort of touched on this a little bit, but just for people who are coming up again. What about when you got you know what A camera's going to do? You've seen the rehearsal. You have some ideas, and you have a really good idea for a great shot, but you realize it's probably going to throw things off the rails. Like either A camera would have to get out of there, or maybe it'll take too much time. Do you bring that quietly up to the DP, or do you just not bring that up at all because you're worried it might start a whole cavalcade of problems?
Well, it depends on how are things going. How's my relationship with all the people you just talked about?
Yeah.
Or how are we doing on time is always an issue.
Yeah.
How awesome is it? How necessary is it? Will it make the cut?
Yep.
I
Yep.
think I don't know that you would consciously think it out that way, but I mean, the way I would do is I would just kind of sneak over to where the shot would be, and kind of like just make side eyes at the DP or something, and just hold my fingers up.
Yeah.
And like they kind of know, they can tell from where you're standing, probably like
What the issues might be or
what-
whatever.
yeah, what the offer might be.
Yeah, the
like,
offer,
oh yeah, they can tell. Oh, you're talking about shooting through that and over that, and
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, let's come back to that. And maybe
So
not.
it sounds like you basically have a way of quietly going, is this worth
I
your
think
time?
so.
And
I don't know if
whatever.
there's a formula for doing it, but
Yeah.
like sometimes I might do it just to make sure they know that I'm paying attention and like I'm trying.
Yeah.
I know they're not going to bite it, but like I haven't suggested anything in a couple hours, and B camera it's a light B camera day. I want to
Yeah.
make sure they know I'm there.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And so but you can get a lot of mileage out of walking around the set, just putting up your framing hands.
Yep.
And you find stuff, you see stuff. You don't even have to put up your framing hands. Sometimes you're just walking around and shot hunting posture, and I like it when I'm on a set and there's an openness about finding shots, and it's not this precious thing. Now I was on a show once, and here's one thing that can happen, and this might be something for your listeners to hear, is that over the course of a show, the politics about what's appropriate to offer and suggest and do changes from sometimes the beginning to the end. Say you're working on a streaming series like I have been. It's very common that they start out saying, oh, we're going to do this like a movie. And they emphasize single camera. And Super Pumped was a good example of this. It was a big show, a lot of money. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was the actor. And
This was a TV show, a streaming TV show?
yes,
Okay.
It was on Showtime. It didn't do well, but it had big names, and I think Uma Thurman was in it.
Okay.
And Kyle Chandler. It was a big thing, and so they're going to do it right. And we had the director from The Sopranos and all of this stuff,
wow.
and so the B camera actually didn't work a lot because the first
They were trying to go for that like single camera feature.
Yeah, I don't want to
feel.
compromise this. This is too good. Like, if we really need it, I don't want to, and that was okay for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then, the politics of the show shifted, and the producers decide they're not really down with that.
Yeah.
They would rather be shooting a little bit more traditionally, almost like a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And I want the B camera in there, and I want less fancy schmancy photography. And so, I went from, it's hard for me to be on set when I'm working, but sometimes doing B camera, the job is learning how to pay attention even though you're not working.
So I was going to ask you that when you're not working, you're still hanging out on set.
Oh my
watching
God.
them.
I'm hanging out on set. I don't want to be underfoot. I don't want people tripping over me.
Yep.
I stay back, but I'm at the monitor
Okay.
behind Video Village.
Somewhere near the DP, basically.
Somewhere near the DP, and I want to keep my head in the scene. So I want to see what the A operator's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to point out something if he's not thinking about it.
Yeah.
I want to know what the coverage should be. I'm going to know that by watching what he's doing and listening to the conversations at the Village. I want to have my context on.
Okay. So you're listening to the
So
dialogue.
I'm learning the dialogue.
Yep.
Because so much of what I do as a B camera is dialogue dependent. Like if you're panning from one person to another,
Yep.
if I know the dialogue,
Yeah.
I know, he enters on this line. So when he says eggs, I can whip over to the door and he's going to be there, and they're going to wonder how I'm nailing this.
I was just going to say, and then actually everyone's like, how did you do that on the
It looked
first
like a
take?
genius, but all I did was listen to the
And
dialogue.
I realized
for
you've been studying it the
the
whole
last
time.
half hour.
Yeah.
I've been listening to the dialogue. So
Yeah.
he walks to the door after eggs every time.
Yep.
Yeah. And the whole thing, you can see how you could build, like, you can look like a genius on B camera very quickly.
100%.
And then, with some experience, you realize, okay, it sounds like they were very happy with that. Why don't I do something different this time? And so they have a different.
Do you when you? I'm assuming you're talking about you're on the fifth take and you've nailed it a couple of times, and then you're thinking like, okay, let's change up the timing a little bit. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And do you usually, for something like that, will you just go for it, assuming you know the people, or will you pop over to the director and go, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. I just want to. Did you get what you want, or are you just sort of listening to the room And
I would generally check with them. I'll check
yeah.
with somebody. I'll check
Yeah.
with the DP.
I've made that mistake before, and
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
in my mind, I was like, no, I think we got that.
If
And
I'm
then-
really if they're working on the other camera and they're not working on my actor's performance, I have a sense at this point of like where's the work happening, and if they're working,
what they're
if I can
finessing,
guess
mean.
that they need another
Yeah.
take from the actor I was just on,
Yep.
then of course I'm going to stay with that. But I'll usually go and talk to them, or if it's a headset show, sometimes you're on a headset with
Yeah.
the DP, and I'll just say, hey, how about if I start here this time?
Sure.
Or if I spend more time on the gun, and then I'll go to the duck,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
The Gun and the Duck. I want to see that show. What do you think about working on headsets? Fan? Not a fan?
it depends. If the assistants are on there and it turns into a big kind of sewing circle about all kinds of stuff, I'm not crazy about that.
Yeah.
I've been on shows where the headsets didn't work very well, and so there was a lot of crackle and distortion,
God.
and that's a certain kind of torture that
Oh yeah.
has to be sorted out.
I will say the technology, thankfully, has finally seems to have gotten better to where those pops don't happen as much anymore. Because those, I mean, I don't like headsets anyway. Anybody who's listened to this knows that I got a big problem with that. But that was like torture's a good word.
I don't like. I've been on shows where I got the walkie in one ear, I got the DP in this ear,
Yeah.
and I got the Comtex
Yeah.
because you gotta hit. I've been on sets and had three things on.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. I can't do that. I have hearing issues anyway, so on top of it, but I can't even imagine how painful that must be. But the thing about those Comtex, I forget which ones. There was one that's always they would just every once in a while go, and it's like I would spend the entire day like living in fear that it was gonna do it, and then invariably it would happen like right in the middle of a scene when you're just about to go. Okay, I'm about to, you're getting ready to do something mentally, and it would just take you out. Anyway. Yeah. What about working with actors as the B camera operator? Because camera operators in general, like just wondering, do you have any litmus tests for how to approach an actor, what actors are approachable, what actors aren't approachable? And then there's also the question of when a camera's got some big master and you're pulling off just a piece of it, how to talk with an actor about what you might or might not need, or can they help you with something without affecting the rest of the shot also?
Yeah. As a B camera, if I'm working simultaneously with the A camera, I try to make sure that I'm coordinating with the A camera about any changes that I make,
Yep.
or that I ask for. With experience, I can learn that adjusting an actor one way or another is usually you can get away with it on a certain axis more so than another. Like, so I don't know if I'm 90 degrees to the A camera,
Yeah.
if I ask the actor to move back a little, it won't necessarily hurt the A camera.
You'll still check it with them, but
They'll still be in the same
ahead of
place.
time it's not going to be
Yeah,
a
we
problem.
talk it out together. This
Yeah.
all happens sort of in a
Yeah.
chaotic dance sort of planned way. And
What
then
about you start a show and first time you've met the actors, maybe you know their names, maybe you don't know their names. Like, what is there something you do to sort of figure out? Because some actors are approachable, some actors aren't approachable. Some actors are approachable, but they're not gonna. They don't want any notes per se.
I just watch them.
Yeah.
I watch them. I listen. The Comtex are super. The Comtech, of course, is the headset
Yeah,
that allows
thank
you to
you.
hear what the actors are saying,
Yep.
and the Video Village people.
You're basically hearing the sound that's being recorded on set.
Yeah, it's like a
so
party line for a
Sometimes
bunch
you
of
get a
people.
little in between stuff there.
Yeah, and that in between stuff can be very helpful for
That's
taking
true.
the temperature of things you may not know about.
Yeah. On that note, I've said this before. I've done this once or twice where, maybe, and I don't quite know what happens at the sound card, so I'm guessing here, but maybe they forgot to pull the sound down in between a take, and the actors' mics are still live, and an actor will get on their phone, and I'll actually go over and go, "Hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to let you know your microphone's on. I can
Yes.
hear everything." And then suddenly, in an instant, I'm now an ally of theirs because I've it's one of those like little, not that you can help it happening. But there are little things like that I've found that you can just lean in and quietly go, hey, you got a piece of broccoli in your teeth, take it out.
Yes.
Where suddenly they're like,
Yes.
oh, this guy's on my side. and then when I do need, is there a chance you could just lean on your right leg at that point? Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
It's I find that anytime I can sort of stack the deck in that favor, I try. I mean, I do it anyway because I want to help people, but
Yes.
it sort of helps you a little bit.
That's it. And that's a tricky thing. You want to make sure that the A camera is getting what they need in the way that they need it on that take. But it's also really wonderful to have a relationship with the actor. Where you get what you need. Often they're going to emphasize. The B camera is often doing titers and close-ups. And the actor is perfectly happy to make sure that it may not be the main close-up, but if you're tighter, sometimes they'll emphasize your camera a little bit more.
Yeah, they know they got to they got to give you the meat,
and they're happy to do it because they know that's where
Hopefully, absolutely.
And then sometimes it's really good with the A camera sometimes to make sure that we're communicating constantly, and sometimes the A camera gets the emphasis for that take, and then once they have what they need, then we can start making sure that the B camera gets it perfect.
Yep.
So maybe the B camera's a little blocked here and there for a while, but now on this one, it's really going to be like, let's go ahead and change the marks, guys, and play it to that camera completely. Or maybe they'll even say, "Hey, camera, stand down." I mean, I've seen that,
Yeah.
And
do you ever feel like you can go up to after you feel A camera's gotten 3 or 4 that are good and everybody seems pretty happy, you can go up to the DP and go, hey, if A camera can stand down on this and you give me just one, I could just I can get over a little farther to the right and get you a much better shot. Do you usually throw that in there and then let them make the decision, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to give them the best shot I can. I want to make everybody happy, and a lot of times. There's so much experience on the set that a lot of these observations and decisions are arrived at almost simultaneously.
Ahead of you, yeah.
A lot of times, they know what you're going to say before you say it, and they're like, "Yes, you got it." So and so, stand down.
Actually.
This is just, go have a coffee.
Yeah, you go. Do you want? Yep, let's do that.
And so for these instances, it's really good to have a relationship with the director. And I like talking to the actors, about non-work stuff. Can be helpful. You're a human being, I'm a human being, and it's not easy for them to remember all these words and be in front of the camera all the time.
Yeah, no question about it. I think the more that I've found the more that they realize that you realize that goes a long way, and that you're there for them. Because I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think they've got the hardest job on the set because, someone's going to look at my framing. And maybe my framing's off, but they're not looking at me.
Yeah.
and I'm looking at them, and if their performance is off, I'm watching them as their performance is off. So it's the most sort of bearing thing.
And it's scary, I mean, these guys are, it's not easy work for some of them are, maybe they're having a newfound success, and they're nervous about what the future may bring, and there's so much weight in the moment, and I'm trying to get this right, and anything you can do to make them feel comfortable. I'm a big fan of the sort of nonverbal sort of communication with the actors about minor adjustments and
like what? Give me an example.
Oh, just if I could get the actors' attention, sometimes I'll just slightly, I won't make a big thing out of it.
Give a little point
ask
over,
them, be a little bit to your left, but I won't make a big thing out of it because. Maybe they're really going through it over on A camera right now, and I believe it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But it's not an adjustment I want to put on the table for everybody right now.
No,
I just think it'll work, and it's between me and the actor. And good luck, A camera.
They're also
no, seriously. But.
Well, it is. Sometimes it is. It's a way. But there are also those actors, and I'm sure you found it that they'll finish a scene and they'll just look at you and they'll lean to the left and they'll realize that they were blocked and they're showing you open, and you'll just go, yeah. And they'll go, I'll get it on the next one. I mean, and when you do have that kind of relationship, that's the best because, number one, they understand what you need, but you also understand what they need, and you don't have to go, I need another one because everybody bring everybody into it and whatever.
Yeah.
These are all great tips. Because I have a tendency to introduce people and go, I got to ask you this, and then we get going on a subject, and I never end up asking them. And then I get back and I listen, and I go, oh God, so I have to ask you about Sneakers, because Sneakers is this gem of a movie that I don't think enough people have seen. That John Lindley shot, and it's just a beautiful movie. And I think Doc Carmen was the A camera Steadicam operator on it.
I don't think he was steady, but yeah,
okay.
It was before, but he was the A operator.
Yeah. And you were the second AC.
I was the second AC.
Who was the first AC on that?
A guy named Henry Klein.
Henry Klein, okay, who became John's operator eventually.
Yes, he's a very successful camera operator.
Henry's
have him on your show.
Henry's a great guy. Actually, Henry came out and did some Justified with us, so we hung out in Chicago for a while. He's fantastic.
Oh, wonderful.
But just anything you can tell me about shooting that? Was it a good experience?
It was wonderful. It was one of the best years of my life. It was really because, that was kind of like, for me, that was sort of a glimpse of what was old Hollywood.
How so? What?
Well, in a sense, the actors alone.
Yeah, Ben Kingsley,
Robert Redford.
Oh my gosh, Robert Redford. Yeah,
James Earl Jones.
A very young River Phoenix.
Yeah. Ben Kingsley.
It's just amazing.
Dan Aykroyd. I mean, it was just
that cast is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching James Earl Jones movies since I was a kid, and he goes back to like some of the finest movies.
Was he good? Was he fun to work with? A good guy.
It was really, really fun.
Someone like James Earl Jones, do you just want to talk to him constantly to hear him talking to you? Because of his voice?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
And also, by the way, you've got a deep voice, so
yes, yeah. But he's a little bit of a hero for me, and then also, Sidney Poitier was in that movie.
Yeah, it's funny. I know this, but when now you're saying these names, I'm thinking how big they were. Yes,
and as wonderful as the personalities of today are, I mean them no disrespect. There was a certain kind of gravitas to these people,
totally,
that goes back to like a time that's gone. That
absolutely,
it was really, they were really remarkable people, and it was really that was a fun movie. We had a great time. The politics of the movie remained positive all the way through. John Lindley, you already know he's he's an angel,
the cream of the crop, and so talented.
Yeah, he did a fantastic
job. So talented,
job.
So kind, so giving, so nice, and so smart.
Yeah.
He's fantastic to work with. He's a dream. Yeah.
That movie was a lot of fun.
I'll tell you. So first of all, if anybody listening to this, and I know I'm not supposed to say this, but if you haven't seen Sneakers, stop this podcast right now. Please come back a little bit later, but and go see Sneakers. It is just such a good movie. And Phil Alden Robinson, I think, is the director.
Yes.
But there's a scene in there that just, I mean, it's actually on my website. It's the two cops have brought Robert Redford into, I think, the police station, and they're basically grilling him about, what happened and whatever. And it's a dolly shot with like 12 different parts to it, just from one axis, as the guys move around the room. And because of how it's blocked, and because of how the dolly's moving, the dolly doesn't move much; it's just adjustments. It's a oneer, but with complete coverage. You get overs, and you get singles, and you get two shots, and it's just such an elegant way to film a scene with no cuts that inherently almost has cuts within it. It's really fantastic. And I won't give anything away either, but the ending tag to that scene and what happens at the very end is just so just, and it's a great movie. How was Ben Kingsley to work with?
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's really just an impressive human being. I think I was a tiny bit starstruck.
I'm sure I would have been. I would be now. I mean,
yeah.
When you're working with a cast of that caliber, do you find that like you step up your game even more? You're like, it's even like, I better be. I'm working with these guys. I better be on my game. And
I guess, I mean, in those years I was doing movies, so that movie was a little top heavy with like some of the old time stars.
Yeah.
But, I think I had just done a movie with Denzel Washington and John Lithgow. And,
oh, okay.
Yeah. And then before that I did a movie with, I think, Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. So when I was an assistant in those years, I was doing movies. And the movies, they had stars in them. I mean, it was a little bit familiar in that way. I wasn't.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I did any better job, but because of the caliber of the cast.
I meant more. Is it daunting, or do you just? I mean, I'm sure it's daunting in the first day or two, but do they just
I'm
become?
not sure. I think I took it a little for granted. I gotta say.
That's good.
I think now, as the business has changed
Yeah.
and the nature of celebrity has changed.
Yeah.
I think it becomes more valuable.
Maybe actually I'm looking at it in retrospect, because I will say, the couple of the big names from the past, when I've worked with them now, I'm like, wow, this is so and so. Robert Duvall. I work with Robert Duvall. I'm like, Robert Duvall, like that's
that kind of thing.
and there, you're right. It's no disrespect to anything, but it's not the same. It's not the same today. People coming up as it used to be.
Different.
It's a different world.
It's like,
And also, I think maybe one of the things that's changed about it with social media is now, with these actors coming up, there's not as much mystery as maybe there used to be. Like, we know everything about them constantly all the time, whereas I don't know that I could tell you too much about Ben Kingsley. I mean, other than the movies that I've seen, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a different world.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Ben Kingsley. At the time, there was a movie that I was really a big fan of. It doesn't get talked about a lot. It's a film called Betrayal.
Oh, I remember Betrayal. Yeah,
it's based on a Pinter play.
Yeah, yeah.
And I forget who directed it, but it was really just, I mean, it was one of the, I had a videotape collection at home. It was one of the movies I just watched, twice a year without fail. And,
that's great.
And now here he is.
Now I should go see that again. I think I saw it years ago, but I remember it being good. Because you're talking about, do you watch stuff for to get visual inspiration?
Nowadays?
Yeah. I mean, or as you were coming up, I should say,
Oh, I liked movies just from, for the simple pleasure of going to movies, I mean, there's, I've always been a big fan of movies, but sometimes I didn't really, it was more subliminal thing. I think that some of the movies that affected me, I went back and looked at them, and there's definitely strong frames in them that affected me. And I thought, well, this is what movies are.
Yeah.
And, when I've shot some of my own stuff, it was always fun to find shots that I was excited about. But I don't know if I look for things in particular. I mean, there's certain directors and cinematographers I know whose work I'm constantly drawn to.
Okay.
And I can't say that it's always the framing. I mean, I tend, as a viewer, I tend to like framing that is a little reserved and classical and less is more kind of thing. I like Robert Elswit's work quite a bit.
Okay.
And, Paul Thomas, he works with Paul Thomas Anderson quite a bit. And
so more like sort of classic frames and letting the action play within those frames as opposed to adjusting constantly and this and the other. Yeah. One of the things that's happening now that I'm noticing more and more, especially with sliders, is like I'll be watching something, and maybe TV a little more than movies, but even sometimes in movies, and the camera will just be slightly adjusting. And I'm sort of like, why is it moving? Like, there's no reason for it to move right now.
Yeah.
And it's some of the things that I'll sometimes tell, people I'm mentoring or B camera operators or whatever, is like, just because you have a slider doesn't mean you have to slide. Like, it's there for a reason.
Yes.
So you don't need to keep it going. But that's my pet peeve.
Yeah.
We all have them.
It's really interesting you asked that question about, inspiration about framing, because one of the things I've noticed is happening over the last, 20 years in visual medium in this country is the idea of, things being cinematic, and good cinematography and good photography is so prevalent now. Like it's like this self-referential language, like things looking more like a movie are happening so much now, and they're getting it right on TV shows and streaming things and short pieces, and it's people understand how to do it, even if they're outside in their alley with a DSLR and a couple of actors. They know to put the camera low and to you know, they could graduate the sky and post, and it's like there's never been I've never seen so much good-looking stuff out there in terms of framing and especially ideas around color.
Yep.
I think it's it used to be pretty revolutionary to just have the Storaro mix of orange and red and blue, and like emotionally what that does to people.
Yeah.
And he's written books about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and now you've got things like Shot Deck, where you can go and you can look at the color scheme of every single shot and
Yes.
whatever. It's incredible the amount of stuff that's out there.
The tools, and then also, but people, when you turn on any streaming thing or go to the movies, everything looks so good.
Yeah.
So the idea of what is good and what's where do you get your inspiration from is kind of like
It's out there everywhere.
So I've never seen it. I
Yeah.
mean, what I find, if there's anything that's lacking, is usually the ideas behind the story. Sometimes you're getting this amazingly sexy package of, what used to be revolutionary looking cinematography from 30 years ago, which is commonplace now. But the story itself is can be a little bit of a nothing burger, or it's not courageous enough, or it's not taking any real risks. Or
Agreed. Yeah, it's like the wrapping's really good, and then you open up the box, and it's like, oh, that's what this is.
yeah, it's almost like any dumb show can look amazing.
I think maybe what it is now it's still just as hard to write a really good story as it always has been, but it's now easier, and I don't want to say easier because it's not easy, but it's more accessible to make a really good image and make a really good visually compelling story.
Yeah.
But if there's nothing to back it up at a certain point, it's like, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So it's a little tough. Well, listen, this has been fantastic. I thank you so much for all of this. It's been great to sit and talk to you and hear all of this and everything. There's so much. There's a great interview. The thing that I leave everybody with is, you have any advice for younger operators coming up, and or is there some advice you can throw out there that you wish you know now that you wish you had back in the day?
Yeah. I hesitate to give this one, but I will, because I think there's something to it. The more as time goes on, I think it's important to make short films. I mean, it could be the simplest thing in the world. It could be two people at your kitchen table with 15 lines of dialogue, and it's 3 minutes long. But if you shoot it and you edit it and you get it finished, it gives you what I learned doing something like that helped me so much in terms of my work as an operator. So I didn't get too fussy about the wrong thing, and learn the problems of, cutting a scene without the right footage, or have a sense of what the director and the DP, or I don't know, it just really gave me, I wish I had done more of that sooner. And it helps you to learn the language of filmmaking. I think maybe that's what I'm getting at. If you're going to be an operator, you got to be immersed in the language of filmmaking. It can't be just about finding nice frames, but how does this frame relate to that one, and how's it going to be cut, and what if you can't do it that way? What if you have to rethink the whole thing? And that comes from making something. It's really tricky I think it's much harder work to absorb that on the fly without doing it. Operating is can be such a specific chore, and but making a film is making a film, even if it's a little one. And the other thing about it is, no matter how small the film is, it has similar problems as the biggest films. Yeah. And so I don't know, I just felt that there was something really, really valuable about that. It gave me a sense of what the editorial possibilities were for every take. So I would know oh, let's not cut yet. No, let that go a little longer. Like, oh, hang on here, or you know what? Why run it all the way through here? You're never going to use that. You could. Why don't we? Maybe we should just finish this here, and you're going to pick it up. You're going to be on that camera for that anyway, so maybe we should wait. I mean, it just gives you a sense of how to plan the work, and I don't know. It's that gift. That thing never stops giving that gift. If you do a film, I think I would do that, and I think that's plus it's just tons of fun.
Boy, that was such a pleasure to sit and talk with Brian. Such a great person and also a fantastic camera operator. As usual, if you enjoyed the podcast, please like us, share us, write a review, anything you could do to get us out there. Also, make sure to check out the website, www.theop.io, for all sorts of goodness about camera operating. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, so until next time, thanks for listening.